Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of Expertly Dyed Art by Science, and this is the daily vlog, episode number 42. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about my warp-weighted loom project. Now, if you follow my blog, you will know that I am kind of working on this warp-weighted loom project, pretty much for my own edification. I'm an archaeologist at heart. I did my undergrad in archaeology. I did my master's in museum studies, and now I'm going to go back to school, maybe this fall, hopefully this fall, for a master's PhD in landscape archaeology. So I'm really interested in this. Plus, I like all my crafts, so I wanted to find a way to incorporate my hobby into what I do for professional work. And I kind of did that with my master's dissertation because I wanted to really learn how to spin and do wool stuff, and I really didn't have a concept at the time. I just knew that I really wanted to do it, and I had basically 6 months to do my entire dissertation, and eventually I learned how to spin, and I made my own samples, and I shot lasers at them, not those death ray lasers, just light lasers, and it really inspired me to get into the whole dyeing and spinning scene, and here I am today. But along that thread, pun, along in that same vein, I wanted to do something else which I had recently been thinking about, which is making a warp weighted loom and spinning the yarn and making a piece of fabric with it. And I found a really great article someone wrote. If you want, I actually have a link to the specific blog post where I talk about this paper. But this lady, she actually she inferred what the fabric would be like based on the loom weights themselves. And in archaeological contexts, that's really the only thing that remains. I mean, to find whole or part pieces of textiles is pretty much impossible. I mean, there are only a few environments where those exist, and they're certainly not everywhere in the world. And people have been using warp-weighted looms for a long time, especially if you're west of Egypt. Basically, they did like standing looms or giant looms that were on the ground, like pegged into the ground, and then you. Well, anyway, that's a tangent. So I found this paper clay at one of the grocery stores here in Korea, and so I bought a whole bunch and decided I was going to make my own warp loom weights. And I used this stuff for my Halloween projects last year, and I really liked how it turned out, so I decided this is going to be the medium that I used to make these loom weights. Now, I had in this particular article sort of the dimensions of actual archaeological loom weights that people have used, and because of her deconstruction, she was able to, or not deconstruction, her reconstruction, she was able to figure out, how many warp threads per weight you needed, and how many grams per, like how many grams of the weight per warp thread would be needed to get the right tension, and how many, and the dimensions of the warp weights themselves that you would need, and it's very detailed, and it's a lot more cohesive if you go over to the blog and read what I wrote. So it'll make sense when you go there and check that out. Anyway, so I got the clay and I started making the loom weights, and then of course, as soon as I made them, it occurred to me that I probably need to figure out how much moisture content is in here, and since this is entirely in Korean, well, the important stuff is entirely in Korean, I don't really know how much water content I can expect will be lost during the drying process. You don't bake these, you just let them air dry. Although maybe you can bake them. I'm not exactly sure. So what I did is I made them to the right size, and then realized, okay, well, I need to figure out how much water is going to be lost. And so I have these two mini loom weights. The goal was about 180 grams finished size, and I started off with 200 grams. I'm like, oh, maybe that'll be enough. It turns out it's not, because these finished guys are about 127 grams each. So, and they lost, I think, about a half a centimeter in each dimension. So it shrunk a little bit as well. Duh, I should have realized. So I have two mini loom weights, but it allowed me to figure out what the water loss is going to be like. So I can make loom weights that are the right size. And as a result, I have attempt number 2. And it actually looks a lot better than these. These are all funky shaped. So the hole is big enough. I haven't actually weighed these yet. I want to still get about 180 grams. This one, because it's so big, it's going to take probably about a week and a half for it to dry fully. These smaller guys took about a week. And the only way I figured that out was I weighed them every day, or every other day maybe, to see if the weight changed at all. And if it didn't, then I realized, okay, well, it must be done drying. So this still has about 3 or 4 more days until I'm convinced that it's fully dry. But what's kind of nice is, I have the dimensions, which I think it was 2 centimeters and 10 centimeters diameter for the circle. But I ideally want about 22 of these, and when they're all warped up, the yarn is going to come through and it's going to hang on them like this. So they're going to be sort of all in a line, kind of dangling together like this. Right? So, the shape actually matters for some of these. Now, there are a few shapes that are generally found in archaeological contexts. Some of them are just, globular. Sometimes they're disc-shaped, like these are. Sometimes they look like trapezoids that are a little bit three-dimensional. Sometimes they're actually really nice and made out of metal. I think some metal ones were found maybe in Greece or Rome or somewhere, maybe down by the Mediterranean. They found loom weights that were made out of metal, and I would assume, I don't remember what exactly they were used for, what was mentioned, but they probably were used for a very fine yarn, or maybe even silk. So if you're thinking about the trade routes coming from somewhere like China down, I would suspect that maybe they're spinning silk, but or not maybe spinning silk, but taking something that is a silk garment and painstakingly pulling the threads apart from the, unweaving the garment and reweaving it. So maybe you have a garment that had a hole, or it's just out of fashion, and you can repurpose it because the silk is very, very valuable. You don't want to just toss it away. You want to reuse it if you can. So they've actually seen this archaeologically, where people have definitely reworked yarn from a different project into something else, which is really cool. They were refashioning and upcycling way back when. Anyway, so I have this. I think there's like 5 or so posts on my blog where I'm talking about my research and a little bit about my loom weights. But I mean, a big difference here with these loom weights. I'm hoping that I'll be able to, actually use this one for my project, so I'll just have to make 21 more and then figure out somewhere to store them. And then, the next hurdle, of course, is actually making the warp-weighted loom. I mean, they're usually tall, and usually you have to stand to weave. So that's going to be a winter project, I think, figuring out how I'm going to get the things that I need. The trees here don't quite fit the need that I have. There's a lot of trees in our vicinity, which makes it really pretty, but they're not, the parameters that I need aren't quite there. So I might have to do something else, like make it out PVC pipe, or I don't know. I'll think of something. Probably PVC pipe is going to be the way to go. Anyway, so there's an update on this project, and like I said, if you want to know more about it, definitely head over to the blog, because it's actually laid out in a logical manner as opposed to my rambling. If you like this video, please give me some thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already, and post comments or questions, suggestions in the comments below if you want to help me out, or if you're just curious. You can also find me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and the blog post link that I'm talking about will also be in the description below, so head down there and go check it out. Anyway, thanks for watching!